Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Everyday English Learning Podcast. I am your host, Lily. It is such a pleasure to be back in your ears today.
And I'm Jake. It is great to see you all, or rather, have you all listening in. We are absolutely thrilled to have you join us. Today, we are going to dive into a topic that I think makes a lot of people nervous, even though it seems so simple on the surface.
You are absolutely right, Jake. Today isn't about complex grammar rules or memorizing a dictionary. It is about connection. Specifically, we're exploring mastering the art of small talk in professional settings.
Small talk. You know, Lily, for a long time, I actually dreaded small talk. I used to think it was just filler or a waste of time, talking about the weather or traffic or how the coffee tastes. It felt superficial, but I've come to realize that I was completely looking at it the wrong way.
That is a very common misconception, Jake. A lot of our listeners probably feel the same way. We tend to think that if we aren't discussing deep strategy or heavy topics, we aren't being productive. But the truth is, small talk is the glue that holds professional relationships together. It is the gateway. You cannot just walk up to a stranger at a conference and ask for a job or a partnership without first establishing that human connection.
Exactly. It is the icebreaker. It is how you signal to the other person that you are friendly, safe, and open to conversation. I read an article recently that suggested small talk is actually a social ritual. It helps us navigate hierarchies and establish trust before the real work begins. So if you're an English learner, mastering this skill is double the challenge. Not only do you have to worry about what to say, but you also have to worry about the cultural nuance of how to say it.
Precisely. And that is why this episode is so important. We aren't just going to give you phrases. We want to help you build the confidence to walk into a break room, a networking event, or a Zoom meeting 5 minutes early and handle that silence with grace. We want you to stop fearing the question, "How was your weekend?" and start seeing it as an opportunity.
I love that perspective. We are going to break down the anxiety, look at the unspoken rules of engagement, and obviously equip you with the vocabulary to sound natural. We want you to move from feeling awkward to feeling like you belong in the room.
We know that learning a language is a journey of vulnerability. Putting yourself out there is hard, but by the end of this episode, we hope you will have a toolkit that makes those first few minutes of conversation feel not like a test, but like a bridge. So, Jake, are you ready to get started?
I was born ready, Lily. Let's do this. To really understand why this matters, I want to take everyone back to a specific moment I experienced a few years ago. It is a memory that still makes me cringe a little bit, to be honest. I want to paint a picture for you. Imagine a large, brightly lit conference hall. It was the annual industry gala in Chicago. There were probably 300 people there. The room was buzzing with the sound of clinking glasses, low jazz music playing in the background, and that distinct roar of hundreds of people talking at once.
Oh, I know that atmosphere well. It can be incredibly overwhelming. It is exciting, but it's also a sensory overload. You walk in and it feels like everyone already knows everyone else, like there's a secret script that you didn't get a copy of.
Exactly. That is exactly how I felt. I remember standing near the buffet table holding a small plate of appetizers that I didn't even really want to eat. I was just holding it so my hands had something to do. I looked around and saw groups of people laughing, exchanging business cards, and looking so comfortable. And there I was, pulling out my phone and pretending to check emails that I had already read 5 times.
The phone shield. We've all been there, Jake. It's a defense mechanism. We use it to look busy so we don't look lonely. But the irony is, by looking down at our phones, we signal to everyone else that we are unavailable. We build a wall around ourselves because we're afraid of that first awkward second of eye contact.
You are spot on. I saw a group standing right next to me. They were discussing a marketing trend that I was actually very passionate about. I had read about it that very morning. I had an opinion, I had something valuable to add, but my internal monologue paralyzed me. I kept thinking, what if I interrupt and they stare at me? What if my grammar isn't perfect? What if I say something and then the conversation just dies? So I stayed silent. I finished my drink and I walked away. I found out later that the man in the center of that circle was a director I had been trying to email for months. I missed a massive opportunity simply because I couldn't bridge the gap of hello.
That is a powerful and somewhat painful example, Jake, but it highlights the stakes perfectly. It isn't just about being polite, it's about access. Now, I want to ask our listeners to take a moment and think about their own lives. You might not be at a gala in Chicago, but think about your daily routine. Maybe it's the office kitchen while you're waiting for the coffee machine to finish brewing. Your colleague is standing right there watching the numbers tick down on the microwave.
Or think about the modern virtual equivalent. You join a Zoom call 3 minutes early. The host is there and maybe one other person. The screen says connecting, and then suddenly you're face to face. It's just the 2 or 3 of you in total silence. You check your hair and the camera, you adjust your microphone. The silence feels heavy, doesn't it? It feels like it weighs 100 pounds.
That specific silence is what we're addressing today. I want you, our listeners, to visualize that tension, feel that slight increase in your heart rate. That's the danger zone where most people retreat. But I want you to imagine a different outcome. Imagine if instead of looking down or muting your microphone, you had a simple go-to phrase ready in your pocket. Imagine if you could turn that 3 minutes of waiting into a moment where you learn that your boss loves hiking or that your client has a new puppy.
That shift changes everything. When the meeting actually starts, you're no longer strangers, you're allies, you have shared a moment. So, keeping that specific, slightly sweaty palmed scenario in your mind, let's move on to the tools you need to conquer it. We aren't just going to tell you to be brave, we're going to give you the bricks to build that bridge.
All right, now that we have set the scene and understood the importance of breaking that silence, it is time to open up our toolkit. We are going to look at some high-level vocabulary and natural phrases that will help you sound fluent and, more importantly, relaxed.
That is the key word, relaxed. When you're nervous, you tend to use very formal textbook English. You might say, "Hello, how are you doing today?" like a robot. We want to move away from that. We want to find what I call the sweet spot between professional and personable.
Exactly. Let's start with our first key concept and vocabulary word, common ground. Can you explain what that means in this context, Jake?
Absolutely. Common ground refers to shared interests, experiences, or environments that two people have in common. Finding common ground is the fastest way to build rapport. That is our second word, rapport. Rapport is a close and harmonious relationship in which the people or groups concerned understand each other's feelings or ideas and communicate well.
Rapport is such a beautiful word. In business, you don't need to be best friends, but you need good rapport. So, how do we establish that? We usually start with the immediate environment. This leads us to our first set of phrases involving the word venue.
A venue is simply the place where something happens, like a conference, a meeting, or a party. If you are at an event, a great way to start is by commenting on the venue.
Here's a phrase you can use. Listen closely. Have you been to this venue before? It is simple, safe, and open-ended. Or if the room is particularly nice, you might say, I'm really impressed with the venue. The architecture is quite striking, isn't it?
And if you're in a virtual setting, obviously there is no physical venue, but you can talk about the turnout. This is a great noun. Turnout refers to the number of people attending an event.
Yes. So you enter the Zoom call, there are 50 participants, and you can say to the host, wow, great turnout today. It's a compliment and an observation wrapped in one. It shows you're engaged.
Now, let's move to something that trips a lot of people up, talking about work without talking about work. We often use the word hectic, Hectic.
Hectic means full of incessant or frantic activity. It's a very common way to describe a busy schedule without sounding like you're complaining. It sounds more dynamic.
So if someone asks, how has your week been? Instead of just saying busy, which can sound a bit dismissive or negative, try saying this. It's been a bit hectic, but productive. How about yours?
I love that addition of but productive. It spins the stress into success. Let's try another variation. If things have been calm, you can use the word low key. This is very common in American English. It means quiet, relaxed, and not attracting much attention.
This is perfect for Mondays. If someone asks, "How was your weekend?" and you didn't climb Mount Everest or run a marathon, you can say, "It was pretty low key actually, just what I needed to recharge."
That word recharge is excellent for professional contexts. It implies that you were resting so that you could come back to work with more energy. It makes doing nothing sound like a strategic career move.
That is a brilliant way to put it, strategy and relaxation. Now, I want to introduce a phrase structure that helps soften your questions. In many cultures, asking direct questions can seem aggressive. In English, we use softeners.
Right. Instead of asking, "Where do you work?" which feels like an interrogation, we often lead with, "I was wondering," or we frame it as an observation. But my favorite bridge phrase is, "What brings you here?"
So, what brings you to this conference? Or what brings you to this part of the city? It's inviting. It allows the other person to tell a story rather than just giving a one-word answer.
Let's look at one more sophisticated word, acclimate. To acclimate means to become accustomed to a new climate or to new conditions. This is a level up word from get used to.
Imagine you have a colleague visiting from another branch, or maybe a new hire. You can ask, "How are you acclimating to the new office?" Or, "Have you had a chance to acclimate to the time zone yet?" It sounds incredibly professional and caring.
It shows empathy. You're acknowledging that change is hard. Okay, let's pause for a moment of practice. I want our listeners to repeat these sentences after me. I'll leave a small gap for you to speak. Ready?
Don't be shy. Say it out loud. It helps your muscle memory.
Sentence 1. It's been a bit hectic, but productive.
It's been a bit hectic, but productive.
Sentence 2. How are you acclimating to the new changes?
How are you acclimating to the new changes?
Sentence 3. It was a low-key weekend, just what I needed to recharge.
It was a low-key weekend, just what I needed to recharge.
Great job! I hope you are actually saying these aloud. One final vocabulary tip before we move on. Avoid the word fine.
Ugh, the F word of small talk. How are you? I'm fine. It's a conversation killer. It's a dead end.
Instead of fine, try words like splendid or not too bad, or even be honest and say, I've been better, but I'm hanging in there. That last one, hanging in there, is an idiom that means you are surviving despite difficulties. It usually gets a sympathetic laugh from people. It creates an instant bond because we're all just hanging in there sometimes.
That is honesty. It's refreshing. It signals authenticity. And that's what we're aiming for. We're not trying to be perfect English speakers. We're trying to be real humans who happen to speak English.
Absolutely. So we have common ground, rapport, venue, turnout, hectic, low-key, recharge, and acclimate. These aren't just words, they're social tools.
And now that we have the bricks, it's time to build the house. We're going to put these into a real conversation in the next section so you can see how they flow naturally.
Okay, this is my favorite part of the show. We are taking all those theories and words we just learned and putting them into the real world, or at least a simulation of it.
The Everyday English Simulator. I like it. So, how are we going to do this today, Lily? Are we throwing me into the deep end again?
Just a little bit. We're going to do two distinct role plays. Scenario 1 will be a physical setting, a coffee break at a large industry conference. Scenario 2 will be that dreaded Monday morning pre-meeting silence we talked about earlier.
Got it. So for scenario 1, I'll play the person who is trying to break the ice, and you can be the stranger I'm approaching.
Perfect. So imagine we are standing near the coffee station. I am stirring sugar into my cup, looking a bit distracted. You are walking up next to me. Listeners, pay attention to how Jake uses the environment to start the conversation. Action.
Excuse me, is this milk carafe empty?
Oh, let me check. Actually, yes, it looks like it's all gone. I think there's another station over by the window.
Ah, thanks for the tip. I definitely need the caffeine. The morning sessions were intense.
Tell me about it. That keynote speaker had a lot of data to get through.
He really did, but I'm actually quite impressed with the turnout. I didn't expect so many people to fly in for this.
I know, it's packed. Have you been to this venue before? The architecture is incredible.
First time, actually. I'm still trying to acclimate to the sheer size of the place. I nearly got lost looking for the restroom. I'm Jake, by the way.
I'm Lily. Nice to meet you, Jake. And don't worry, I got lost twice this morning. Cut. Okay, let's pause right there. That was smooth, Jake. Very smooth.
I felt the pressure, but did you notice what I did there? I didn't start with, "Hello, my name is Jake." That feels too aggressive. I started with a prop, the milk carafe.
Exactly. That is a classic technique called triangulation. You, me, and a third object, the milk. It takes the pressure off making eye contact immediately. You solved a small problem, finding the milk, which created an instant team dynamic.
And then, once he responded, I pivoted immediately to our vocabulary words. I used turnout to complement the event, and I used acclimate to show a bit of vulnerability, admitting I was almost lost.
Exactly. That vulnerability is key. When you admitted you were lost, it made me feel comfortable admitting I was lost too. That is rapport.
Now, I want our listeners to try. Imagine you were standing next to Lily. She just said that keynote speaker had a lot of data to get through. I want you to respond using the word hectic or impressive. I'll give you 10 seconds. Go.
Did you say something like, it was a bit hectic, wasn't it? Or, it was intense but very impressive? If you did, excellent work. You're keeping the ball rolling.
All right, let's switch gears. Scenario 2. It is Monday morning, we're on Zoom, it's 8:59 a.m. The meeting starts at 9 a.m. It's just the two of us.
Okay, I am staring at my webcam. I look a little tired. You just logged in. Go.
Good morning, Lily. Can you hear me okay?
Hey, Jake. Yes, loud and clear. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Just getting settled in. How was your weekend? Did you get a chance to recharge?
It was good, thanks. Very low key. I mostly just caught up on some reading and walked the dog. How about you? Did you get up to anything exciting?
Actually, mine was the opposite. It was pretty hectic. My sister got married on Saturday, so it was nonstop family time.
Oh, wow. Congratulations to her. That must have been fun, but exhausting.
Exactly. It was a beautiful ceremony, but I'm definitely running on coffee this morning. Hopefully, I can acclimate to the work week by noon.
I'm sure you will. Well, looks like the rest of the team is joining now.
And scene.
Nice one. I loved how you used recharge in your question to me. It showed you care about my well-being, not just my output.
Thanks. And notice how I handled the "how was your weekend" question. I didn't just say good. I gave you a hook.
A hook? What do you mean?
Yes, I mentioned my sister's wedding. That's a hook that you can grab onto. It gives you something to ask follow-up questions about. Congratulations, was it fun? If I had just said my weekend was busy, the conversation would have died.
That is such a crucial point. Conversation is a two-way street. You have to give the other person information they can use to keep talking to you.
Okay, listeners, your turn again. I'm going to ask you, how was your weekend? I want you to answer using the word low key and provide one small detail about what you did. Cooked a meal, watched a movie, slept in. Ready? So, how was your weekend?
I hope you said something like, it was very low-key. I actually tried baking bread for the first time. See? Baking bread is the hook. Now I can ask you about the bread.
Let's go one step deeper. Sometimes you run out of things to say. The silence comes back. What do you do then?
That is the awkward gap. My favorite technique is the observation-question combo. You observe something in their background, if on video, or about the current situation, and ask a question.
For example, if I see a plant behind you, I might say, "Is that a real fern behind you? It looks remarkably healthy." I have a terrible track record with plants.
It is real, and thank you. That's perfect. It's light, it's personal, but not intrusive.
So to recap our practice session, 1. Triangulation.
Use the environment, coffee, venue to start. 2. The hook. Give details in your answers so people can ask more questions. 3. Vocabulary injection. Use words like acclimate or recharge to sound professional yet human.
Practicing this alone in your room might feel silly, but trust me, your brain is recording these patterns. The next time you're in that elevator or that Zoom room, these phrases will pop up automatically.
Absolutely, you're building muscle memory. And remember, the other person is likely just as nervous as you are. They want you to break the ice. You're doing them a favor.
That's a great way to think about it. Be the hero of the awkward silence.
You know, Lily, while we have been focusing heavily on business settings, conferences, Zoom calls, office kitchens, the beauty of these skills is that they don't turn off when you leave the office building. This isn't just business English. This is human connection English.
That is such a profound point, Jake. I think we often compartmentalize our lives. We think, I need to be professional here and I can be myself there. But the vocabulary we discussed today, words like rapport and finding common ground, are actually the foundation of friendship, dating, and even community building.
Absolutely. I'll give you a real-life example that has nothing to do with work. I moved to a new apartment complex a few months ago. For the first 2 weeks, I walked past my neighbor every morning and just gave a quick nod. It was polite, but cold. Then, one morning, I noticed he was carrying a yoga mat.
Ah, the hook. You saw a visual cue.
Exactly. I used the observation question technique we just practiced. I said, I see you're heading out early. Is there a good yoga studio around here? I'm still trying to acclimate to the neighborhood.
You used the word. And how did he react?
Ha! His face lit up. It turns out he is an instructor. We ended up talking for 10 minutes. Now we aren't just strangers sharing a hallway, we're neighbors. We have rapport. If I hadn't taken that tiny risk to find common ground, we would still be ignoring each other.
That story illustrates something really important for our listeners. Small talk often gets a bad reputation as being superficial or fake, but in reality, it is an act of kindness. By initiating that conversation, you acknowledged his existence. You made him feel seen. In a world where everyone is glued to their screens, that is a gift.
It really is. And I want to address the fear factor again. A lot of our listeners might be thinking, but Jake, what if I make a grammar mistake? What if I use the wrong preposition?
That is the number one fear. But here's the secret. Connection is more important than perfection. If you ask someone, how was your weekend, and you genuinely listen to the answer, nobody is going to care if you forgot the S on a verb. They will remember how you made them feel.
Right. They will remember that you were interested in them. If you say, my week was very hectic, they understand the emotion behind it. They relate to the stress. They aren't grading your vocabulary test.
Let's talk about the ripple effect. This is the idea that a small action can have large, unforeseen consequences. In a professional context, that small talk about the venue or the weather could lead to a job offer 3 years later because that person remembers you as the friendly guy from the conference.
It sounds like an exaggeration, but it happens all the time. Opportunities rarely come from official applications. They come from people, and people hire people they like. If you're the person who can break the tension in a silent elevator with a warm smile and a comment about the turnout at the meeting, you are demonstrating leadership.
So I want to ask our listeners a question. I want you to pause and think honestly. When was the last time you avoided a conversation because you were afraid? Was it in the elevator? Was it at the grocery store? Was it waiting for a bus?
Hold that memory in your mind. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just recognize it. Next time you're in that situation, I want you to try just one thing, just one low-key observation. The bus is late today, isn't it? Or that fruit looks fresh.
You might be surprised by how much people want to talk back. We are social creatures. We're starved for connection. You, as an English learner, have the power to bridge that gap. You're not just learning a language, you're learning how to connect worlds.
That's it. You are a bridge builder. So take these words, acclimate, recharge, rapport, and use them as your tools, not to impress people with your intellect, but to connect with their humanity.
Beautifully said, Jake. It really is about being brave enough to say hello and skillful enough to keep it going. Whew, we have traveled quite a distance today, haven't we? From the terrifying silence of a gala in Chicago to the friendly yoga chads in an apartment hallway.
We really have. And I think it is important to pause here and look back at the map. We have thrown a lot of information at our listeners, and I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed. Let's boil this down to the essentials.
Good idea. If you take nothing else away from this episode, remember the core philosophy. Small talk is not about information exchange, it is about emotional exchange. You are signaling safety and openness. That is the foundation.
Exactly. Connection over perfection. Now let's do a speed round recap of our power vocabulary. We gave you words to describe your environment and words to describe your internal state.
For the environment, we have venue. Use this to complement the location or building. Great venue, isn't it? Turnout. Use this to comment on the crowd size. I'm impressed by the turnout.
And for your internal state or schedule, hectic. Use this instead of busy to sound dynamic and important. It's been a hectic week. Low-key. Use this for a relaxed, quiet time. I had a low-key weekend. Recharge. Use this to frame your rest as necessary preparation for work. I needed to recharge. Acclimate. Use this to show you are adjusting to new changes. I'm still acclimating to the time zone.
Perfect summary. These words act as polished stones. You can carry them in your pocket and pull them out whenever you need to sound professional but approachable. But words are useless without a delivery system.
Right, the strategies. We talked about triangulation. Don't stare at the person, look at a third object, the coffee, the view, the broken printer, and comment on that first. It takes the pressure off.
And we talked about the hook. When someone asks you a question, never give a one-word answer. Give them a detail, a hook that they can grab onto to keep the conversation flowing. Don't just say, good. Say, good because I finally finished that big project.
That hook concept changed my life, honestly. It turns conversation from a tennis match where you are trying to score points into a game of catch where you are trying to keep the ball in the air together.
That is a lovely metaphor, Jake. A game of catch. Now, I have a challenge for our listeners. We don't want you to just listen to this podcast and forget it. We want you to use it.
Here's your homework for the week. It's very simple. I want you to find one opportunity to use the word acclimate or low-key in a conversation. It could be with a coworker, a tutor, or even writing it in a comment on social media.
Just one word. Once you use it in real life, it becomes yours forever. You own it. And if you're feeling brave, try the observation question technique on a stranger. See if you can turn a moment of silence into a moment of connection.
You might be surprised. You might make a friend, or at the very least, you'll prove to yourself that you are capable of navigating the social world in a second language, and that is a huge victory.
Absolutely. Mastery isn't about knowing all the words in the dictionary. It's about being comfortable with the words you do know. You have the tools now. It's time to build. Well, friends, we have reached the end of today's episode. It is always a little bittersweet to say goodbye, especially after such a deep dive into connection and communication.
I agree, Lily. Time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it? But before we sign off, I want to leave you all with one final thought. We talked a lot today about mastering the art of small talk. The word mastering can sound intimidating. It sounds like a mountain you have to climb perfectly.
That is true. It implies that there's a finish line where you never make mistakes again. But language learning isn't a destination. It is a continuous journey. There will be days when you feel like a poet and days when you stumble over your own name.
Exactly, and that is okay. Please be kind to yourself. If you go out tomorrow and try to use the word acclimate and you accidentally stumble or the other person doesn't hear you, celebrate it anyway. You took a risk. You stepped out of your comfort zone. That is where the real growth happens.
Inspirational tone. Every conversation you have is a victory. Every time you choose to speak instead of staying silent, you are winning. You are building that bridge we talked about. We are so incredibly proud of the effort you're putting in. Learning English requires courage, and you are showing up.
You really are, and we want to hear about your victories. If you used one of our phrases today, or if you have a funny story about a small talk fail that turned into a win, please share it with us. We love reading your comments and emails. It makes us feel like we're part of your journey.
Yes, please do. You can find us on all the usual social media platforms under Everyday English Learning. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. We have some really exciting topics coming up.
Oh, we definitely do. Next week, we are going to switch gears completely. We are going to tackle the language of debate, how to disagree politely. So, if you have ever wanted to express a strong opinion without starting an argument, you won't want to miss that one.
That is going to be a spicy one. I can't wait. Thank you so much for lending us your ears today. We appreciate every single minute you spend with us.
Thank you, everyone. Remember, the world is waiting to hear what you have to say. So go out there, be brave, and start talking.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep connecting. Goodbye, everyone.
See you later, guys.